Support for I Hear of Sherlock Everywhere comes from MX Publishing, with the largest catalog of new Sherlock Holmes books in the world. New novels, biographies, graphic novels, and short story collections about Sherlock Holmes. Find them at mxpublishing.com.
And listeners like you who support us on Patreon or Substack, sign up for exclusive benefits at patreon.com/IHearOfSherlock or IHearOfSherlock.substack.com.
I Hear of Sherlock Everywhere, episode 323, Sherlock Holmes and the 12 Days of Christmas.
I hear of Sherlock everywhere since you became astronomer.
In a world where it's always 1895, it's I Hear of Sherlock Everywhere, a podcast for devotees of Mr. Sherlock Holmes, the world's first unofficial consulting detective.
I've heard of you before. You're Holmes the meddler, Holmes the busybody, Holmes the Scotland Yard Jack in office.
The game's afoot as we interview authors, editors, creators, and other prominent Sherlockians on various aspects of the great detective in popular culture.
As we go to press, sensational developments have been reported.
So join your hosts, Scott Monty and Bert Wolder, as they talk about what's new in the world of Sherlock Holmes.
You couldn't have come at a better time!
I'm Bill Curtis. This is I Hear of Sherlock Everywhere. Now, here are your hosts, Scott Monty and Bert Wolder.
Oh, thank you very much, Bill Curtis. Yes, this is I Hear of Sherlock Everywhere, the first podcast for Sherlock Holmes devotees where it's always 1895. I'm Scott Monty.
I'm Bert Wolder.
And, oh my goodness, 'tis the season, Bert. We are now into the Christmas season.
Oh, you're so behind you're just behind the times. We've skipped right past Christmas because we were celebrating that, where I live, at the end of September, and then we zipped through Valentine's Day, and now we're getting ready for St. Patrick's Day. So I'm going to go down to my Hallmark store and see if I can get some of those green ornaments for the tree.
It'll camouflage right into the tree.
Yeah, we don't have Black Friday, with this accelerated pace of holidays. We have Tan Tuesday.
It's Rainbow Friday. It goes by like like you've gone to plaid.
That's right. Gone to plaid. Now there's
a reference.
There's an expression that we need to revitalize. How are you feeling, Dave? I've gone to plaid. That's going to do me well for the holidays. I like that.
Oh my goodness! Well, before we go to pot here, let's get the show on the road. Lovely interview ahead for you today. We're talking to Humphrey Carr and David Reed, the writers and principals in Sherlock Holmes and the 12 Days of Christmas, a musical play going on in Birmingham at the Birmingham Rep from now through January 18th, 2026. Fascinating discussion with them as we get into all kinds of things behind their origin story, their connection to Sherlock Holmes, and their approach to creating this particular genre. A lot of fun. We also have the Learned Societies, where we'll talk about events coming up that you should know about. Madeline Quinones is here with, oh my goodness, her final segment of A Chance of Listening. I can't believe we've gotten here. She'll have some things to say about that, and so will we. And stay tuned for the canonical couplet, where we give you 2 lines of poetry and see if you can solve it and win a prize. No, it's not 2 tickets to go see Sherlock Holmes and the 12 Days of Christmas. Unfortunately, we can't afford the flights for you over there if you're an American winner. But it will be something from the vaults. We also have the answer to last episode's couplet, so stay tuned to see if you have won. Meanwhile, we would ask you to pay attention to this. Our merch store is open. You can now buy iHose mugs and notepads Yes. Or trifles, mugs, and notepads if you listen to our other show. We also have 221B and 1895 oval stickers for your vehicle, for your refrigerator, or your laptop, wherever you happen to put oval stickers. Those are all available for purchase, and it helps to support the show. So thank you in advance for participating in that. And, of course, if you'd like to become a regular supporter of the show, we offer you that opportunity for as little as $1 a month through Patreon, where you can listen to the show ad-free and also get thank you gifts based on your level of membership. We offer a similar kind of arrangement there at Substack, but with a different price range and with no thank you gifts. So if Substack is your thing, you can listen to the show ad-free there as well. Thank you in advance for all that you do to help us continue to bring this show to you. Oh, that's the official music. It means it's time for learning about the learned societies. That's right. We look at events going on in the Sherlockian world, and now we turn our attention to the second half of January 2026. Where do we find ourselves, Bert?
St. Charles, Missouri, January 16th. The Harpooners of the Sea Unicorn will have an in-person meeting. Find out more from Jonathan Bassford. harpooners.wordpress.com.
And if you happen to be in London, who wouldn't want to be in London? On the 17th of January, why, that is the Sherlock Holmes Society of London. It's their 73rd annual dinner. Catherine Cook is the contact there, and sherlock-holmes.org.uk. It may be all filled up at this point, but it's worth inquiring about and checking out for next year if you can't make it to the upcoming one.
And for this year, folks, just get an earlier flight. Go over a couple of days earlier and see Sherlock Holmes and the 12 Days of Christmas in Birmingham.
I like that a lot.
Believe me, after you hear the interview, you're going to want to do that. Then January 17th, the same day, the Norwegian Explorers Study Group. It's a virtual group. Tom Gottwalt can tell you more. They're meeting on January 17th, and you can look for them online at norwegianexplorers.org.
And another virtual meeting the day after, on the 18th, the Sound of the Baskervilles. They're having their meeting there, soundofthebaskervilles.com.
And January 18th, Keene, New Hampshire, our friend Anna Behrens is having another meeting, an in-person meeting of the Monadnock Sherlockians, and you can find out more from Anna Behrens.
And on Monday, the 19th of January, in Columbia, Maryland, Watson's Tin Box of Ellicott City is having their annual Mycroft. Annual Mycroft what? I guess they're feasting on Mycroft. They're having their annual Mycroft. Matt Hall is the contact there at watsonstinbox.org.
January 20th. Sherlock Holmes Society of the Cape Fear is having a virtual meeting. And find out more from Tom Campbell or look for them online at a great URL, Sherlock Holmes Society, all one word, sherlockholmessociety.com.
On the 28th of January, in Middlesex, New Jersey. Oh, not too far from you, huh?
Right.
The Middlesex Constabulary is meeting. Paul Hartnett is your contact there. Middlesex.constabulary@gmail.com.
Aha, well done. And end the month, January 31st in Baltimore, Maryland, with the Sherlockians of Baltimore lunching. Greg Ruby can tell you more, and go look for them online at Sherlock Baltimore, all one word.com.
Sherlock Balmer.
Sherlock Balmer.
Well, that wraps it up for January of 2026. If you have items that you'd like to have added to the Sherlockian calendar, get in touch with Ron Fish. His email address, contact information is there at the top of SherlockianCalendar.com. And look for your organization to be there and see what else is around. Maybe pop into some of these virtual meetings and see how other Sherlockians do their things. May give you ideas, may help you meet new people, but it'll be a lot of fun. Of course, you know our friends at MX Publishing can keep you entertained and informed every day of the year simply by virtue of reading the wonderful books that they have available at mxpublishing.com. But did you know that they can also keep you entertained every day of the year with calendars? The Sherlock Holmes Illustrated Page-a-Day calendar is something that we've been supporting and enjoying for a few years now. Every page has a different canonical quote or a historical occurrence accompanied by an illustration. And there are also 4 Sherlock Holmes Advent calendars. The Mr. Holmes Advent calendar with 24 solve-it-yourself Christmas crimes. There are 4 volumes there, and you can have your choice of any of the 4. Mix and match if you wish. I think there is a discount if you buy more than one. And as we know, every December, Advent rolls around again, so you can use and reuse these calendars to your heart's content. Check out the calendar options at MX Publishing, along with all of their latest books and audio recordings. There's so much for a Sherlock Holmes fan to enjoy on mxpublishing.com. Humphrey Car is a British actor, comedian, writer, and football executive. In 2011, he won the Edinburgh Comedy Award for Best Newcomer. He's a founding member of the Victorian sketch comedy troupe The Penny Dreadfuls and has starred in NBC's American Auto and Apple TV Plus's Mythic Quest. He's been a regular performer on BBC panel shows, including Fast and Loose, Have I Got News for You, and 8 out of 10 Cats Does Countdown, and has appeared in various Radio 4 programs. Carr has also served as executive director of Wrexham AFC since his friends and fellow actors Rob McElhenney and Ryan Reynolds bought the club. He was also executive producer for the Emmy-winning documentary series Welcome to Wrexham. David Reed began his career with the multi-award-winning comedy trio The Penny Dreadfuls, with whom he wrote and starred in 5 Edinburgh Fringe shows, 2 series of the Brothers Faversham for the BBC, followed by a string of 10 comedy plays. He's since appeared in television drama series Endeavour, Adult Material, Beyond Paradise, and Frankie Howard, Rather You Than Me, playing comedy legend Peter Cook. His theatrical debut was writing and starring in Guy Fawkes in 2022. His follow-up play, Sherlock Holmes and the 12 Days of Christmas, was co-written with Humphrey Car and features original songs by Andrew Lloyd Webber and Tim Rice. It opened at the Birmingham Rep in November 2025. Humphrey Car and David Reed, welcome to I Hear of Sherlock Everywhere.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
Pleasure to have both of you here. So we're going to jump right into it here and get to the basics. Where did you first meet Sherlock Holmes?
So I think I'm pretty sure my first encounter with Sherlock Holmes was in the school library when I would have been about sort of 10 or 11, and seeing a Sherlock Holmes on the shelf and going like, oh yeah, right, I've heard that name, but I don't really 100% know what it is. And I think I read The Sign of Four first.
Ooh,
and was like,
wow.
What is this? Is quite complicated and quite dry, and not necessarily loving it the very first time. But then I think I then got onto Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, which is the perfect way to get introduced, because it's short, sharp, and sweet, and each one is a sort of self-contained, exciting little adventurette. So I think that's probably the first time I came across Sherlock Holmes sort of in earnest, rather than just seeing like Basil the Great Mouse Detective or something
Sure.
like that.
I mean, you're preempting my answer now
Is
here,
that-
but
yeah.
no, I don't think it was Basil. I think the first time I came across the character was probably Young Sherlock Holmes, the film, which
obviously not written by Arthur Conan Doyle, but is certainly a really fun childhood romp and a way into that character that, I wanted to know more.
It's funny because, I say it was... I'd obviously heard of Sherlock Holmes because for some reason I decided to pick some socking great book off the shelf. So it's also probably... it's probably in like a Hanna-Barbera cartoon or like some version, the way he sort of ripples through the zeitgeist. There's probably some other
He's
version.
never left. I mean, our jumping around all over the place here, but our fight director on our show gifted us some Marvel comics of Sherlock Holmes as a press night. Being like, oh wow! So Marvel even had the license to him for a while. He's not returned to the MCU, but there he was. Yeah,
those are our official answers, but I couldn't say with absolute certainty that was. I do remember reading The Sign of Four at school and being like, oh, I don't quite see what all the fuss is about, and then returning to being like, oh my god, I love this! It's incredible.
Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of people we speak with, if their venture into Sherlock Holmes is literary based, usually it's beginning with, the Red-Headed League or the Blue Carbuncle, one of the short stories that are easily accessible. And I think this is the first time we've heard of anyone getting into it from a novel perspective. So kudos to you.
Well, like I say, I'm not even sure that I have a vague recollection of being like, no, I'm not really sure about all this, because of course it starts with that long. He's not in it for a long time,
right?
So I was like, "Where's the guy? Where's the fellow with the hat and the magnifying glass?" But yes, fortunately, I fought past that and realised that the fault was with me and not with the source material.
So did you go on and read more? Are you two both lifelong readers? Were you just sort of deep into fiction?
Yes,
or comics,
absolutely.
or what were you reading?
Yeah, so I at that stage I probably had gone on to Sherlock Holmes because I'd finished all the Rosemary Sutcliffe novels, which I was obsessed with as a kid. Rosemary Sutcliffe is they've made a couple of movies out of some of her books, but she wrote these fantastic historical fiction stories for kids. Probably the most famous one is called The Eagle of the Ninth, which has been adapted for film various times. I think the last one was that Channing Tatum movie Centurion or something, which is basically The Eagle of the Ninth writ large. So I was a big reader and absolutely threw myself into all the Sherlock Holmeses. Once I had got past my uncertainties. You said yes, Red-Headed League or Blue Carbuncle or Speckled Band or whatever it was that I had read, and all those, I then devoured all of the rest of them.
Yeah, the same. I was very much a binge reader as a kid, so I would go sort of months of not reading anything, never having the impulse to pick it up, and then I just sort of drift towards a book and then devour everything.
Yes.
And I think my way into literature was I suppose you'd call them comics. It was never a superhero comics thing. It was Asterix and Tintin and Calvin and Hobbes and those sort of comic strip things that are weirdly sort of literary at the same time as being like easy to pick up and a lot of fun and adventure stories. And so it was a short hop and a jump to Sherlock Holmes from there, I think.
Wow. Yes, Tintin and Sherlock definitely share a lot of DNA.
Yes.
You have excellent taste.
Yeah, and you are really one of us. When you talk to, there are thousands of folks who love and adore Sherlock Holmes all around the world in lots of little groups, and we all have the same thing of getting an imprint on literature as kids and then reading these popular things and then finding the history and things. But you two have been working together for a very long time.
Certainly feels that way.
Because you met at university and you took some of that love of literature into a whole series of other things that you've done with the Penny Dreadfuls and so on leading up to this. Haven't you? You've just sort of tapped that vein of literature.
Yeah, I think our first forays into, we did improv comedy together at university and had a blast doing it, and then moved into scripted stuff, and what we loved really was kind of melodrama. That was all our sketches were sort of very over the top, very really very Conan Doyle tinged nonsense. Virtually the first sketch we wrote was called The Sign of Three, which was really a sort of Hound of the Baskervilles parody / it was a bit, so the intimation, we were on a moor.
A blasted moor, but there was a cult of some kind involved as well. And it was Victorian gentlemen searching the moor at night looking for a colleague who'd gone missing.
Yes, and then it became clear they'd stolen something out of a sort of temple in India previously, and now someone was hunting them. But also it was. I mean, listen, was it good? That's up for debate. But it was very melodramatic, and all our sketches were very sort of H.G. Wells infused and Mary Shelley infused and sort of Hammer horror versions of those. Really, right? It was taking the tropes and the stock juices that have been boiled out of all those books and sort of trying to make fun of them.
Also, that sketch is such a disposable medium, and we always found it endlessly amusing for ourselves to have really high stakes sketches. Things that you absolutely overcommitted to what was important, and it was life or death. And then after 2 minutes, you just abandon it and never return to it again. Just really oversell this to an audience and then deliver nothing afterwards. It was like watching 2 minutes of a 2-hour movie that you never got to see the rest of it.
We had a sketch called Secret Society that was same thing. It was like dripping in. We would each come onto the stage one by one, and then hear the next person coming and hide, thinking that it was some other villain, and everyone would identify themselves by their numbers. And so it was like, I'm 27416. Like, who are you? I'm 37212. And then
the numbers slowly got smaller, which meant they were more senior.
Yes, so number 14.
I'm 14.
Oh my God, it's 14. And then someone came in who had a letter, and they were all like, What's that? I don't even know where you are in the hierarchy if you just got a letter. So it was all stuff, of that ilk, and that's what we loved. And so it's sort of crazy to be doing something very similar 20 years later.
Well, that's it. I mean, from those beginnings, we also we moved to the BBC, to BBC Radio 4. So we were making audio comedies professionally when we first started out, and we did Victoriana in a show called Brothers Faversham, which was an anthology comedy that charted the lives of various brothers from this one aristocratic family that we'd invented. And there's an episode about Victorian Britain's greatest detective in that one, which we wrote back in 2008, maybe?
Something like that.
And we've not moved very far. And but even back then,
we like what we know.
That's exactly right. We've just wanted to do this stuff, basically.
Yeah.
Well, and this is fascinating because as you've moved between the stage and audio, I would imagine each medium offers a slightly different benefit. Obviously, with the stage, you're interacting with the audience, you're feeling the energy there. But I would imagine with audio, it gives you a little more freedom of creativity. But where do you fall on that spectrum?
Yeah, absolutely. It was really fun to up the stakes. So every episode of this series, The Brothers Faversham, would start with that particular brother being born, and their mother, Athena Faversham, was
Alexandra.
It wasn't that? Yeah. Alexandra Faversham was basically Britain's greatest sort of action hero, essentially. So we would always have her, on top of the Trans-Siberian Express, having a sword fight with her nemesis, Count Triescu.
Always heavily pregnant.
Yeah.
And she would always defeat the opponent and then go into labour. That was always how every story began. And so all of these.
How many children did she have?
Well, we made 8 episodes in the end. We also made one for television where we had a duel on top of Big Ben, of Westminster. So there was one there. And then there's one sister who is we've put in our Sherlock Holmes show here in Birmingham. So so far there are 10 siblings that we know of.
Yeah. And but that gave us the freedom. The audio, as you said, gave us the freedom to do, like, we'd have these insane things going on. There was one with a load of Italian
terrorists, really.
like sort of anarchists that were trying to blow up the theatre. But I think
they were trying to blow up the Queen. Yeah, it was. I mean, it's the thing about audio that I love in particular. I think we both do is that. I mean, there's no money in it, so nobody's really giving you many notes, which for creative reasons is lovely. But also because of the medium, making something outlandishly ambitious costs exactly the same as setting something in a featureless tunnel. You may as well go all bells and whistles and make it as sort of adventurous and exciting and as imaginative as you can.
Ran into trouble with the BBC when we tried to. They liked it and they were like, "Can you write us a TV pilot version of this?" And I think our TV pilot ended with a giant mechanical squid pulling Big Ben into the Thames, and they. Slightly unsurprisingly, were like, right, well, thanks very much. We're going to try something.
I don't even think they went that far. I think they just stopped talking to us.
Yes, I don't think we got thanks very much.
No, I mean, they did say at the beginning of the process, let your imaginations run free. Don't let the budget question, hamper your creativity. We'll deal with that down the road.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, they did not. So the stage is another thing again, as you already suggested. There are restrictions on what you can do with a load of bods and some wooden painted sets, but Birmingham Rep has been fantastic at not saying no to anything. They've really gone to town in making everything we've come up with a reality. It's been very exciting.
So what was the spark that finally took you to Holmes and Watson and Sherlock Holmes and the 12 Days of Christmas? Why now, and why, this approach, which is sort of a musical play, isn't it? And it's panto at one time. I mean, we need to explain some of this to our American listeners, but it's really something special. So what was the spark that suddenly said, well, after all of this time and doing all this Victoriana and all the the audio and the TV, I know what we should do. Why don't we do, a Christmas thing with Sherlock Holmes?
We had always danced around the edge of Sherlock Holmes in a way. As we say, lots of our sketches have been very much set in that world and had been pastiching or parodying or, affectionately approaching.
And then in the turn of the century, Sherlock Holmes became a public domain around that time. And so we finally were allowed to play.
Yes, no one can stop us. And... yeah, but essentially, so we were approached about writing a Christmas pantomime, which, as you say, for American listeners, is a weird form of British theatre that's very popular. It's very traditional at Christmas time. It's replete with it has these kind of specific disciplines to it. So you have to have a dame, which is traditionally always a man dressed as a woman doing a very unconvincing woman.
Yes, it's not drag in the way we understand now. It's very sort of matriarchal. Like they're playing sort of a traditional mother or grandmother figure who is grandmother to the entire audience, basically.
Albeit there's usually a huge amount of double entendres associated with that.
Yeah, a very horny grandmother.
Very horny grandmother. Very good and also very awful way of putting it. So we were approached by Heartaches, which is the production company that's produced the show, and said, would you guys be interested in writing a panto? And we sort of said, well, actually, we'd love to write a Christmas show, but not necessarily do a pantomime where you do all the, pantomime is full of call and response is a big part of it. Sort of, there's the whole thing about he's behind you and getting the audience to boo when the villain comes on and hiss, and it's very traditional. It's sort of based on kind of medieval theatrical tropes,
and it is for children and families.
Yeah, basically. It's very much aimed at kids, and the best ones include a ton of jokes the kids don't get, and the adults all chortle into their drinks listening to. We were like, well, we'd love to do a Christmas show, and actually, this is the thing. My wife is from Michigan, and I have learned from her that she's completely baffled by how much British people like murder mysteries at Christmas. It's a big part of our Christmas tradition. So on the telly over here on a Christmas Eve and often Boxing Day, you will get classic adaptations of Agatha Christie books, Death on the Nile, the Peter Ustinov Poirot films. You often get a Sherlock Holmes adaptation, like one of the big ones. from down the years.
And the other side of a British Christmas is it's incredibly Dickensian. Like Christmas Carol is constantly on, but even just like the Christmas cards and everything are Victorian carol singers. They're Victorian street scenes covered in snow, and so that era is really what we imagine when we imagine Christmas. So it wasn't much of a leap to go, well, everyone loves a detective story at Christmas. Everyone loves Victoriana at Christmas. Well, who's the Victorian detective we love to write for? There he is, staring us in the face. What if he was in a Christmas caper that had 1 foot in pantomime, but no more than that?
And I think we came up with the title first. Sort of the title like popped into our heads when we were first talking, and as often the case, an idea like that, you're like, no, come on, that's stupid. Yes. Isn't it? Is it? Why is it stupid? And then we started thinking about it, and then, one or other of us, and I genuinely can't remember who, was like, what if there is a killer who is killing people to the tune of the 12 Days of Christmas?
In much the way that in the movie Seven, he's killing them in line with the 7 deadly sins. Yeah. It's quite a nice structure to have that countdown to something that's bigger than the sum of its parts, and that's part of the mystery to kind of work out what that is. And so that just felt very enticing. So we're like, all right, let's try and write that.
We did a quick Google, being like, surely someone's had this idea.
Someone's done it already.
And no one had. And so
no one we couldn't take on in the courts. I mean, it was So we pitched that, and Heartaches were like, go away and write it.
Sounds
good idea.
So we then wrote the script, and then made some suggestions of songs we thought would be good, and that's when Tim sort of rumbled into action. And started going through his little black book, looking for composers, and started on the A's, A for Andrew, and Andrew came forward.
There he was.
And so then, they wrote us 6 songs, because, also Christmas show feels, music is a big part of that, and the that combination of sort of Christmas carols and also White Christmas and all those, like, the sort of classic tunes that get you in the Christmas spirit.
Yeah, there they are. I mean, we were amazed how willing they were to take suggestions of where we'd want the songs to go. I mean, we just wrote in the script when we thought a song would be appropriate. We were like, and they sing here probably. Like they'd sing something like suggested title, The Game's Afoot. And, and we just thought nothing of it. We thought, well, a conversation will happen further down the line about all this. But lo and behold, then a song would come back called The Game's Afoot with lyrics about that. I was like, oh, okay, that's pretty much what happened at every step of the process.
Yeah.
So we inadvertently called the shots on that, but then we had no part in what they were up to between the two of them. Really, they just delivered. It was lovely.
Here in our inbox.
Yeah.
Well, we should just to explain things to our American listeners. And good news, we have American listeners who are going to the UK for a series of Sherlockian events, in January. And there's a Sherlock Holmes Society of London meeting, that sort of salutes Holmes close to his birthday. So it is timely. And the show has now been extended to the 18th of January, hasn't it?
Yes,
that's right. Due to popular demand, they say.
Yeah. So we should tell some of our listeners what's going on here without giving any spoilers away. So this is based. You two are playing Holmes and Watson, and Holmes has been away for a while, and he comes back, and he finds out that West End performers are being bumped off in sort of mid-performance, and he finds out there's been another detective, sort of beavering around here. Is that sort of a reasonable high-level summary?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So, Holmes has been in Germany having a sort of, swanning around a sort of post or pre-Reichenbach Falls holiday, and returns to London to find that someone has suddenly started hoovering up all the cases in his absence, much to his chagrin.
It's a younger female detective that gets his goat a bit that anyone else dare try and take his top spot, and so she's trying to solve the case at the same time as he is, and so he is under more pressure to get there first this time around. Meanwhile, Watson is feeling a bit hard done by that he wasn't invited to Germany, and that Holmes didn't bring him back a present. And so off it goes, really, from there, without spoiling too much. But yes, they must delve into the murky and mysterious world of West End actors in order to solve the case. Yeah. And so it's at the same time, it's a love story to theatre, really. We love that idea of, if we're going to transpose what we do into the theatre, then why not really lean into that? And so we sort of take in lots of different genres of theatre, and especially sort of London West End theatre shows as well. So pantomime we've mentioned already, but there's a ballet, there's an opera, there's hints to sort of cabaret and and Shakespeare and all sorts of things that they come across that they're not necessarily that au fait with at the time.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's a production that is perfectly written for the theater lover.
Yes, hopefully that's what we're aiming for.
Yeah,
and yeah, I mean, it's been really fun so far, because I think we have audiences coming in like not 100% sure what to expect, and watching them kind of, you know, us bamboozle them at times with like, oh no, there's genuinely, you've got to try and work out who the killer is. Like, it's not, you know, I think pantomime is often, the story is very streamlined and it's very like straightforward and everybody knows what's going on at all times. And we really have enjoyed kind of pulling the rug out from under our audiences a few times. There is, this is not a spoiler, but there is a moment in the show in which we really lean into our sort of red herring. And I've thoroughly enjoyed hearing multiple times out of the darkness someone in the audience be like, I knew it! Knowing full well that they're about to realise they didn't know it, because we're about to reveal who the killer really is.
The latest one of those was a small girl, which was quite nice to hear that she was so into it.
Yeah.
That she... It was great. But no, I mean, it was very much our ambition that during the interval, everyone would discuss who they thought the culprit was. Mm-hmm. You know, a nice little game, something to engage people over their interval drinks before going back in for the second half. So it's been very exciting that, you know, touch wood, that has been.
Yeah, I mean, I think at this stage we've done about, I don't know, what is it, 18 performances now, something like that. And we've done some schools performances, so we do them early in the morning, and you get, you know, 300 school kids in, which is quite an experience. However, what's really nice about it is that they are very demonstrative about what they think is happening at any given time. So they're quite sort of, the ones we had yesterday were quite sort of rowdy and unruly.
Yes.
But as a result, they would be like, what? Oh my God! When like something would happen that surprised them. Or as I say, they're like, I knew it! And then when we revealed who the killer really was, they're like, well, I knew that! You know, sort of arguing amongst them who thought what was happening. And that's been really fun, because our background is very comedy, so we're used to just trying to make people laugh. And so our one rule has always been that if they're laughing, all good.
Yes.
And actually in this one, we've had to go, well, there are going to be bits where people aren't laughing because we are trying to frighten them, or we are trying to
tell a story,
build tension, or tell a story.
We definitely decided that, you know, if we were going to hold people's attention for 2 hours plus an interval, there had to be a rollickingly good story for them to get their teeth into, because otherwise that's quite a long time to just be laughing and to get a bit of fatigue.
Yeah.
So no, we decided to be ambitious with it, and the results have been wonderful so far.
Well, and this, I'm curious about this, because the way you described it before, this countdown, you know, this very almost Agatha Christie, and then there were none kind of setup, right? This seems like something that could be applied to, you know, any general theatrical mystery. So how important are Holmes and Watson to the entire setup here? In other words, could this be done generically with any detective duo, or is this specific for Holmes and Watson?
I think that one of the things we've done is made the relationship between Holmes and Watson really the sort of almost more important than the murder in this, which is a little bit of a departure probably from the classic sort of Holmesian canon.
But more, I think, what a modern audience expects from spending this long with characters.
Yeah.
You know, there's a greater desire to sort of kick the tires on this relationship that they have and what's going on there.
Yeah.
And so we do play with that, which could only be Holmes and Watson or any of their derivatives from people who've copied Holmes and Watson. So it does feel particularly Holmesian. I think we very much lean into the Holmesian trope of never giving too many of his cards away as well. Of that game of he's ahead of our audience and he encourages them to sort of catch up to him.
Yes, and that's his treatment of Inspector Lestrade in Act 2 is one of my most gratifying moments of taking the audience is with us, because they are picking up on that, those tropes in a way, which are things that again I think we enjoy and find very comforting when we're watching things like that is why I think people in the UK love a murder mystery at Christmas, is that it's comfortable. They know what they're in for at any given moment, which is nice.
That's nice. Before we get too far away from the topic, and I'll let Bert jump in here in a moment, I should note that a confluence of events that include everything you talked about before, this notion of Dickensian London, of murder mysteries of Sherlock Holmes, and of Michigan, believe it or not, Humphrey. We have a play over at the Williamston Theater that a number of Sherlockians are going to next month called A Sherlock Carol. It combines the Christmas Carol and Sherlock Holmes. And it's right here in Michigan. So there you go.
Yes.
We should explain that Scott is in Michigan and I'm on the northeast of the states. I'm in New Jersey. So Scott is in Michigan, lives in Michigan.
Whereabouts in Michigan, Scott?
Just outside of Ann Arbor.
Oh, sure. I know it well.
Well, you'll have to visit.
My wife went to U of M, and so I'm very much like going for a Zingerman's in Ann Arbor.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's from Portage, Michigan, so over near Kalamazoo.
Excellent.
Well, this is wonderful. You mean you clearly love the characters. But I'm just curious, how long did it take you to put this together? You did. This is, David, you've written many plays. You two have worked together, as I say, for more than almost 20 years. And some things you've done together, and David's done many plays on his own. How long did it take you to put all this together, to write it, to get to the point where you could do a reading and...
Yeah, honestly, not that long. I mean, as you say, I've sort of honed my process writing radio plays, which is basically a gentleman's hobby because it will not pay the bills, and so there is no point spending an age on writing them. And so you really do hone your processes of how you I need to structure it first so I don't have to delete anything later on because it doesn't work in the story or whatever. And so you go, right, this is what the story is. These are the story beats. This is what every character goes through. Now let's sit down and write it. Great, we've got a play. And we actually wrote it initially. We got the commission and then COVID happened. Lockdown happened in this country. Humphrey was in Los Angeles at the time. I was in York in North Yorkshire in England. And so we wrote it over Zoom conversations and passed it back and forth a bit. But we plotted it out at what we thought would be, the beats we absolutely wanted to hit, the moments really that were like, well, it wouldn't be the show we want to make if it didn't have this and didn't have that.
Yeah.
And, everything we loved about Holmes and Watson. And then we sort of linked them all together in a hopefully satisfying and coherent way. And then just... past it, I think we literally shared out you write the A plot, I'll write the B plot, and then we'll pass them back and do a pass on each one's as a smoothing draft, so it's all in one voice again, because we hadn't written together for quite some time at that point. And I think we had a draft we were happy to send to Heartaches, the company who commissioned it. I think it was a matter of weeks, not months.
Yeah.
It didn't take very long at all. and it felt like we had a lot of stuff in the tank we wanted to get out on this. So I think which always helps for writing a new piece of work. You're like, I've been thinking about this for quite some time, and finally I've got an opportunity to write it.
You're helped so much by having, the Sherlock Holmes canon to kind of draw from and reference, and those relationships and those characters. We know we're going to have a Mrs. Hudson. We know we're going to have Inspector Lestrade. Mm-hmm. We knew we were going to have Queen Victoria be in it. So there were always, that makes it a lot easier. You're not kind of desperately trying to come up with characters. And we've loved coming up with the other original characters for it.
Yes.
But yeah, you have a sort of existing structure. We know we're going to want to be in 221B Baker Street and have someone come round and sort of commission them. We know we're going to want to take in as many like fun London landmarks as we can that are plot relevant. And
we know that we want to leave the audience on a cliffhanger for the interval, so that they can't possibly anticipate how we're going to get to victory, if indeed we get to victory by the end of the play. There's these structural points that we just clung to and never really questioned. I mean, the script has changed over time. It was workshopped quite a number of times, and we'd go away. But that first draft was enough to entice and to not halt the process right at the out of the gate. I think we're both still quite proud of the work we did in that first draft. That I think gave us the momentum to get all the way over the finish line to actually be in production here in Birmingham.
That's lovely. So the play is being performed at the Birmingham Rep from now through January 18th. Any intentions beyond January, other locations, etc.?
I mean,
when are you coming to the States?
It sounds like a very Michigan-heavy tour is on the card.
Mercifully, because it's a Christmas show, we've baked into the concept that we get time off in the spring and summer. So those conversations will be had, I think, once we're a bit further on. I hope they'll be had. A bit further on with the run. I mean, we love the show. We are very open and enthusiastic about it continuing in some form, but no plans have been made as yet. We remain, open-minded about it all. But we'll see. It's doing very well in Birmingham. We've had such full houses, which for a comedy is so nice, because you can actually get this rolling laughter and atmosphere going, which a full room is lovely. No matter the size, a full room is great for comedy.
That's lovely.
Fabulous.
Well, maybe we can mount a campaign to see if we can get our fans to be raucous and get this on the road, so to speak.
For it.
Yes, please.
So what's next for the two of you? What else are you working on?
I don't know, I think I'm probably allowed to say this, I don't know when this episode comes out, but I'm going to be working on the UK version of Saturday Night Live. Yeah, so we're finally, after many years, we're bringing that to life, which is cool. But much more important than that, I am looking forward to doing nothing in the summer. And I'm going to build a bad table, something like that. Some sort of like middle-aged man crisis project that eventually my wife shuffles out into the trash out the back of the house.
I'm in talks with Hergé's estate at the moment to adapt Tintin for the BBC. Which is a dream come true, really. They want it for Christmas Day, audio again, because I've written a lot of audio, as we've discussed. But that would be to adapt The Secret of the Unicorn and Red Rackham's Treasure for Christmas Day next year. So that would be very exciting. So we've yet to dot the I's and cross the T's, but it's looking pretty good.
Yeah,
that's wonderful.
Yes.
This has been fabulous talking to you two. We don't have time, and of course it's not relevant. But Humphrey, you are also the only football executive that we've ever had on our program to talk about Sherlock Holmes, and you've done so much with Wrexham. That I think really just wanted to mention it and acknowledge it.
Yes, it's been a real pleasure.
Yeah,
We've got a lot of Wrexham folk coming down to. We're only about an hour and a half away from Wrexham in Birmingham, so we've got loads of Wrexham folk coming down to watch the show, which is cool.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Of course, there is a crossover, Bert. Remember, we interviewed Joel Emery from Sherlock & Co., which is produced by Goalhanger, which is a huge football outfit. So, yeah.
Right. Well, that's wonderful.
Excellent. Well, we will let the two of you go. We know you're in between performances at the moment, and we appreciate you taking the time to share your stories and your humor and your love of everything that you create together with us and with our listeners. So thank you for joining us on I Hear of Sherlock Everywhere.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
I don't know anything that could be better than talking to two such literate and creative and exciting people who've worked together in these different forms and brought Sherlock Holmes to this point. I just am filled with bitter regret that the likelihood of me getting to Birmingham by 18 January is 0. But it just sounds wonderful, and there's nothing like talking to creative people.
I know. Is fabulous. And what struck me too is they were talking about the history of their collaboration. So many of the other literary references and tropes that they pull out, it doesn't seem that one would need to be intimately familiar with any of this stuff, whether it's Sherlock Holmes or Mary Shelley or what have you. But they managed to pull on those, I think, commonalities or things that are in the general consciousness that we can all share. And isn't that really what good humor does, is it pulls on something that we share together and we can all have a laugh about. And even if some of the jokes go over some people's heads, over the kids' heads or whatever, I was reminiscing on my boyhood viewing of Rocky and Bullwinkle, and how many of those jokes were aimed at different levels of education and experience. And when you can pull that off and do it well, it's really an artful trick.
Yeah. Well, and that's the mark of something that stands the test of time too, and doesn't get dated. We should just tell our listeners too that if you're going to the UK for anything connected to Sherlock Holmes in January, as some are, Birmingham is just a 90-minute train ride away from London. So there you go.
Yeah. Well, we have come to that portion of the show, dreadfully, where now we actually need to say goodbye to Madeline Quinones, and we're going to let her do it in her own inimitable way. It's A Chance of Listening with your correspondent, Madeline Quinones.
Hello, everyone. I'm Madeline Quinones, and today I am here to wrap up this little segment of mine. I actually need to start with one more podcast that showed up out of the blue. Is that starting to get old for me? You bet. There is just a lot of stuff out there that never hit the Sherlockian mainstream, and that, as far as I can tell, never even found its way to Sherlockian Twitter, which was a thing back in the day. And then suddenly, I trip over an entry on tvtropes.com. So there is this audio drama released as a podcast called Genius. It's a fan work of BBC Sherlock specifically, giving Jim Moriarty a sister and focusing on the two of them, and going back and forth between the aughts, before the time of the TV show, and the 1970s, when Jim and his sister Sabine were kids. It was put out in 2019, which you might recall was a very good year for Sherlockian podcasts, and it is recommended for mature audiences only, which means that I might not personally be up to listening to it right now. But it does sound interesting, and I like that it's an adaptation of an adaptation. That's modern myth-making right there. Anywho, the main event for today is the one Sherlockian podcast that has come out since I started this segment. I even predicted that a new show was likely to be either canon discussion or an adaptation, and I was right! At least if you stretch the idea of an adaptation to include audiobooks, and for the purpose of this segment, that is exactly what I've done. In December 2024, the BBC began to release a new podcast called Sherlock Holmes Short Stories, featuring the wonderful Hugh Bonneville as the narrator, reading through the canon. Each short story is broken up into parts, and there's kind of an old-time radio feel to the introductions and the teasers for the next parts. Plus, it's Hugh Bonneville. I love audiobooks, but I am very picky about my audiobook narrators. Mr. Bonneville, I have no problems listening to for extended periods of time. And, this is very important to me, he doesn't try to do a falsetto when he's reading the lines of female characters. I hate it when male narrators do that, because they always sound ridiculous, and it kicks me right out of the story. Women don't sound like this, any more than men sound like this. Mr. Bonneville just pitches his voice slightly higher for the woman, and it's perfect, no notes. As far as highlights go, the show hits the ground running with Speckled Band, so I don't think you can go wrong with beginning at the beginning. The stories are in no particular order, aside from front-loading the show with a lot of the classics, like the Granada series did, so it does make me kind of wonder if it's really going to get through all the short stories or not. It'll be interesting to see what happens. And that is actually all I've got. As far as I can tell, I've covered everything. And for those of you keeping track at home, that's 37 podcasts total. I'm really grateful to Scott and Bert for giving me this time on their show to share with y'all. And I'm grateful to you, the listeners. To everyone who said that they enjoy my segment, thank you. That means so much to me. I'm not going to miss scrambling to get these things done. I'm not going to miss having to edit myself. I'm not going to miss having to re-record a line because the microphone decided to pick up a tiny noise and amplify it. But I am really going to miss the part right after I stop talking, when Scott and Bert respond to whatever I've just said. That's my favorite part, this kind of oddball, extended conversation that we've been having over the past year and a half. Thank you for listening. I hope I've inspired some of you to check out more shows. I hope that I've introduced you to something new that brings you joy. And I wish you all a happy Blue Carbuncle season. I didn't expect I was going to start tearing up when I wrote this. And even knowing that wasn't going to stop it from happening. Sorry. Scott, Bert, back to you.
Aww.
That was so nice.
That was so nice. You know, Madeline has done so much. I mean, she's been creative. She's creative. She's dedicated. She's done a magnificent gathering and analysis. And just think, you know, all of this stuff is so ethereal. You know, she's been the only one to explore the worldwide podcast atmosphere, universe of Sherlock Holmes. And without what she's done through all these episodes, we would know exactly zero about all of it. And it's really invaluable.
It really is. And to me, it's been really instructive to not only learn about these shows, but to see Madeline develop over this time too. You know, her style and her approach to it. I think she's really grown into it, and you know, is certainly a lot more confident in her approach to this segment than she was when she first began. So I'm glad we had this chance to collaborate on this project together. And Madeline, I hope that you will come back whenever there is a new show to report on, because we'll want to hear from you again, hear your take, and our listeners will rely on you to be that set of eyes and ears, almost like an irregular out there, going everywhere and overhearing everyone and seeing everything, so we can learn about it as well. We should note that you can find more of Madeline at dynamicsofapodcast.com. That is her podcast about Professor Moriarty. So worth following there. She's also a regular on the Watsonian Weekly. And I think we've been devoid in acknowledging anything like this in the last year and a half, but our theme music for A Chance of Listening was written by Josh Harvey. You may remember Josh from being with us on episode 259, Sketches of Scions, where he talked about writing theme music for the various Scion meetings that were happening online during the pandemic. So thank you, Josh, for providing the intro and outro for A Chance of Listening. Oh, those plucky strings, that can mean only one thing. Yes, it's time for a canonical couplet where we give you the clues for you to guess which Sherlock Holmes story we're talking about in poetic format. If you were around here in the last episode, you may recall that we gave you a clue that sounded something like this. Half a crown for breakfast and 8 shillings for a bed. Just the sort of lodging for a man back from the dead. Bert, do you know which story we're talking about this time around?
Absolutely. Oh, that's a great case. It's the one where Holmes seems to have been poisoned because he stops eating for a week to foil a villain. And afterwards, he and Watson have a great meal, and he leaves Watson with the bill. That's the case Watson called The Dining Detective.
Isn't that The Dining and Dashing Detective?
I think so, yeah.
It's a dashing detective. Well, yeah. Oh, you've done it once again. Man. And Eric Deckers has done it once again. He's giving me the foreign language to begin his segment. Fremragende. I don't know if that's how we pronounce it. It's Dutch. Danish, excuse me, by the way. My Danish is soggy. Stale. My Danish is stale, I should say. This is the Sherlock Holmes story, he says, where Holmes goes undercover as an artist to guest lecture at a high school when a girl becomes infatuated with him, but he falls in love with the girl's older sister, and chaos ensues. It's the story Watson called The Adventure of the Noble Bachelor and the Bobby Soxer. Except Holmes looked an awful lot like Cary Grant, so I may have fallen asleep watching TMC again. It's more likely The Adventure of the Noble Bachelor. Yes, Eric, thank you. You have once again elevated us from the spheres of incontinuity, which I suppose is better than
I didn't know you were incontinent. That's remarkable.
I was going to say it was better than incontinent. Watson had an experience of 3 incontinent women.
Oh, my goodness.
No, that's women of 3 continents. Sorry. Sorry. Yeah. No, we were looking for the Noble Bachelor, just as Eric has indicated. So we did get a number of answers to that effect. So we're going to bring the big prize wheel out and give it a spin as it goes around and eventually slows down on number 25. 25, and that looks like it is David Townsend. Congratulations, David. We will have an item from the vault for you. Maybe something dancing men related, if we can find something like that. Now, in this case, we have another canonical couplet. It will also be a vault item, since, again, we can't fly you over to Birmingham to participate in the play as an audience member, or as a cast member for that matter. But we will give you this clue. That double line above the wrist most would not perceive. Still, Watson noted beads and fringe and plush upon the sleeve. If you know the answer to this episode's canonical couplet, put in an email addressed to comment@ihearofsherlock.com with canonical couplet in the subject line. If we choose your name at random from all the correct submissions, you'll win. Good luck. Okay, here we are.
Yeah, how about that?
Yeah, we have done it again. Well, we have a sprint to the end of the year. We have a couple of interesting episodes lined up. We have more guests from overseas, or I should say guest from overseas. And we have some local yokels, too. So you'll want to hear what we've got coming. We're not going to give away any more than that because our production schedule won't allow it. But stay tuned because we do have that episode dropping on December 15th and December 30th, something to take you through the holidays. And then, of course, before you know it, the BSI weekend is upon us and busy Sherlockian season ensues. We wish you the very best of the end of November, the beginning of December. And I suppose we'll be back here to do this all over again before we even know it. How does that happen?
Inevitably. That's how that happens.
That's what they say. Yes. They wind the clock and we just show up. Yeah. Well, in the meantime, I am the completely wound up Scott Monty.
And I've gone to plaid. I'm Bert Walder.
And together, we say, may the Schwartz be with you.
Isn't that adorable? May the Schwartz be with you.
Me. Yeah. Okay. And together, we say, the game's afoot.
The game's afoot.
You know, I'm afraid that in the pleasure of this conversation, I am neglecting business of importance, which awaits me elsewhere.
Thank you for listening. Please be sure to join us again for the next episode of I Hear of Sherlock Everywhere, the first podcast dedicated to Sherlock Holmes.
Goodbye, and good luck, and believe me to be, my dear fellow, very sincerely yours, Sherlock Holmes.